you.
All of a sudden, she gets her coat on, she gets her shoes on, and we went, those people are not having extension cord on the
Yeah, I
side
got,
of the house.
And she went to go look.
this here.
Oh, that extension cord was a problem.
By 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge.
I printed it.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I would like to declare Matt Nearpass necessarily absent. Next would be approval of the April 4th, 2022 minutes. We have a motion for approval.
I make a motion, we approve.
Fred, second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. Go through the announcements first. The emergency exits on the side, on the back. Restrooms are in the lobby area. If you haven't done it already, please sign in on the attendance sheet. That would be helpful. If there are business cards in the back table next to the sign, please take one with you. Your email and address also would be helpful for the planning department. Also, at the back table is a copy of the resolutions, which will be read along. If you would, please turn off or silence your cell phones. If you have any conversations, please take them out into the lobby. As far as the process goes, we'll give the applicant an opportunity to make their presentation. For the most part, the board will do its best not to interrupt you, and vice versa. We ask that not to interrupt the board. So in other words, what we're trying to do is create a good record. Let's try not to talk over each other. One at a time, identify who you are. If there are exhibits, whether it be on the screen or if you have extra exhibits, we'll certainly be happy to take a look at them. But as you're talking about an exhibit, do your best to use compass points instead of, well, if we see over here and over there, the record isn't quite going to be clear enough if you say here and there. If you use structures and roads and compass directions, that's going to make the record much clearer. Oh, with that, first on board is Case of Superior Signs. They're
Here
not.
from Coles.
You're here from Coles?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
The company asking for the sign.
okay. So, come on up. Tell us who you are.
My name's Corey Schultz. I'm the store manager of the Coles in Victor, and this is Megan Birch. She'll be running the Sephora shop inside of the Coles.
Okay. So last, I don't think, did you make the presentation before? or-
No, it was from the development company who was here.
Okay. So just a quick review. Did you see the minutes, or we can touch base on that a little bit, just to.
Yeah, we watched the YouTube replay of it.
All right, great. So I think the general feeling of the board is in Victor, pursuant to the code, you get a sign on the building, whether it be the business sign or a sign that identifies what's in there. For example, Kohl's. The code really doesn't allow for multiple, if you will, sub distributors or whatever is in that particular store, so you're going to need a variance. And the discussion we had last time is that we were trying to figure out, we really didn't get a clear answer on whether or not Sephora was merging with Kohl's. Is it separate? So could you clarify that?
Yeah, so they're separate. It's a shop within our store, so it'll be our employees.
Okay.
But it's more than a brand. So it's not like how we sell Under Armour. Like Sephora has some product they make, but Sephora is the shop, not the brands we will be selling in Sephora. So it'll be 3 walls, the center of the store, like it's its own separate thing. It's not, a Nike section amongst other stuff.
Okay.
It's more of, I mean, there's still brands, but it's the brand of the shop, not the product we're selling.
How is that different then from Amazon and Kohl's?
So that's just returns.
It's an Amazon name. It's, if someone is looking for a return, generally they know, and I rely on my wife for this, she tells me that if you want to make a return for Amazon, you go into Kohl's, you go in the back of the store, you make the return, and you leave.
Yeah, to me, it's that the Amazon returns, if you've done them, is the, the little desk in the back, where this is, I don't want to say a store inside a store, because it's still all Kohl's, but, I mean, it's a full shop, and, I mean, I see the point with the Amazon, that's one of those ones that, people find out through Amazon to come there. It's not something we're actively advertising. To me, it's more similar to, and I think it was in the notes, the company said, like the CVS pharmacy at a Target, where it's another store within there, not just a brand we're selling.
All right, so you're making a distinction, and I think I had brought it up at the last meeting. Dick's sells Under Armour and
Right.
Nike and Adidas, and what I think the code is really trying to, at least the intent of the code is, you just have the store name.
Right.
What else is in the store that's really up for the store to figure out how they're going to sell all those other brands? Because if you open up that Pandora's box of, well, now you have all these brand names, they're going to be plastered all over the stores, and I don't think that's really the intent of the code, to allow that to happen.
No, and I agree. I just think to me, they're two distinct things, having an Under Armour and Nike, where that's just a product you sell, where Sephora is the shop. It's not Sephora product. It's hundreds of brands that we sell through Sephora in the building.
All right, so what I think and I saw it in the email, so Al, could you comment on that? And the CVS, if you will, brand name, or the business CVS is within Target, yet CVS has a sign outside of Target?
I don't think I have that email, but not sure I'm aware of that.
Neither am I. It's curious to me that, I read the email without a picture, without really looking at it, and for the time being, I'm trying to figure out if that's permissible, or as I understand the code correctly, it's Target, it's Walmart, it's Kohl's, and that's what you get, not a store within a store within a store and having all these brand names all over the place.
In the instance of CVS and Target, if CVS is an actual subtenant of Target, then by code, they would be allowed a sign.
That'd be similar to what Lazy Boy and, we had a variance for, wasn't it Lazy Boy, it's either Stickley or, was it City Mattress, which?
I remember.
I might be confusing some of the brand names there, but there was, one of the businesses had sublet from the main store. It might be City Mattress, and it might have been Lazy Boy or another one, and they were able to get a sign on this building as well, but I think it's a separate entrance into that particular store, let's say for Lazy Boys, it would be for City Mattress, but I'm not really seeing that in this case, where you'd still go through Kohl's front door to get to Sephora.
Right. Yeah, that entrance would still lead into the full store. So the only other example I could come up with, it was actually a former employer I worked there, was Little Caesars within Kmart, and I don't know when the code was. I know they're out of business, but they were able to have a Little Caesars sign, and that was almost the exact same thing. It was Little Caesars brand, but it was Kmart employees. We hired them, we trained them, and that was similar, where it was a shop within there, and they were able to have the Little Caesars sign on the outside of that building in that plaza.
That I think that has some recollection to me, that there was a Little Caesars, but
Yes.
if that was a pre-existing condition.
It'd be prior to the present sign code, for sure.
All right. Any idea how long Target and CVS have been over there, if that's a pre-existing condition?
It should be under the present code, I would think, or close two. Well, it might be previous, but I'd have to go check the records for that.
I think for that, just, we're holding that thought. Do you have any other examples of similar to a CVS in a Target situation?
That was the only ones they gave to us.
All right, let's hold that thought a second. Sarah, do you have any questions?
Do you have pictures of that? Because I don't recall seeing it. I mean, of the CVS outside of Target, that sign?
But I don't.
Okay. Because I don't recall, it doesn't mean that it's not there. I just don't
right.
recall seeing it. So pictures are always helpful.
No, oh, yeah, and I'm just going by the email from our development people.
Other questions?
No, that was,
Fred, questions?
Well, I think the Stickley Lazy Boy situation was Stickley didn't need as big of a store as they had, and they split it. And they're two different operations.
Right. Right. But
And this isn't. I picture this as being a small percentage of the whole Kohl's floor plan. And I'm kind of concerned that things change, businesses change and come and go, and products rise and fall. And the Sephora sign could become outdated in a decade or so. And then there's a issue of all the other stores. And I'm kind of in favor of standing by the code on this application. That's not my usually stance, but I think it's right that
if
Kohl's can advertise Sephora in other means besides having a
right.
sign on the front of the building.
Right.
That's my take on it.
I am curious on the CVS Target issue, and it might be one.
You might have some.
You have a picture of it?
I didn't even know
Oh, no.
CVS was over there.
And just tell, who are you and,
Sorry. I'm Christina from Cassis Signs.
okay?
You were here last time?
Yes.
And that's what you're showing me, that's the Victor store?
Yes. Your front entrance, just like Kohl's proposed, this Target logo, order pickup is underneath. To the right of the storefront, you see CVS. And all stores from now on, for all Kohl's, will be built, brand new stores will be built up, from the ground up with Sephora and Kohl's together.
That's all fine and good, but if they're not in Victor, let me, all right, thank you, but I'm going to let you know that if it's in Pittsford, Timbuktu, wherever it is, they're all different codes, right? We're dealing with Victor's code. So you bring a compelling question before the board, though, is CVS currently has, there's a CVS sign on, if you'll, Target's facade.
Yes.
And how and when that exists, I think it's worth exploring. What's your timetable on getting the Sephora sign up?
So we grand open the first week of June. I don't know I don't think if it was something that was, decided in July, we would still be fine. It's a long-term partnership.
Right.
So it's not like it needs to be done next week. I know as soon as if it was to be approved, they're ready to go, to do it, but there's no deadline.
So and I think this board does a good job of, we do our very best to get it right. And sometimes it takes a meeting, or we have to adjourn it for 2 weeks, but we want to get it right. So what I'm asking is, if you're okay with it, is to, we're going to table this, if the board is okay with it, table it for the next meeting, which is May 2nd. That'll give us some time to do some research. We're going to go take a look at it. We're going to check with our code enforcement officer. When did it become in existence? Is it a pre-existing condition? Is it current, with the current code? That's going to make a difference on how the board will, I think, take a look at this whole thing. So it's a big issue here. If you're okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, is the board okay with that? So, just follow up with the CVS issue, and certainly if there's any more Victor type of these scenarios, we'd love to know it. Certainly would be helpful to know before the meeting, so we can follow up, take a look at it, but for the time being, we're going to take a close look at the Target and CVS issue. Okay? Good?
Can I make one small comment about like
Absolutely.
the Nike situation?
Yeah.
So like Nike, you can come into Kohl's, you can buy that. You can go into Dick's, you can buy that. You can go into Macy's, where Sephora is strictly in the mall. They are losing their contract with JCPenney's by 2023, which it is on the outside, granted it's in the window. It says Sephora within JCPenney's. So when they come to Kohl's, that's the only other place aside from going into the mall that they're going to be able to shop. So it stands out. It brings, I understand there's the code to it, but it brings a customer in there that might be shopping at Walmart. That's going to bring them in. And no offense to anybody, I don't read any of the marquees at the road unless I'm stuck at a stop sign. So I feel like that there will be noticed and bring them in to shop the store.
So what I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a, if you will, the pulling at the heartstrings kind of issue. But the
Yeah.
code takes a look at the 5 criteria, and it needs to, it's not a, one criteria is a make or break it. You look at it collectively.
Yeah.
And is this going to change the, character of the neighborhood? Well, what we've been talking about is if there's signs on Target and Kohl's and Walmart, and that's going to start changing the character of the neighborhood. You look at the code, variances are to allow some flex within the code. You can't break it, though, if you'll break the rules. And I don't mean that you're breaking the rules, but the rules can be flexible. But if they're not, it's not going to be very effective if they're too rigid, if you know what I mean. If they're too flexible, then the code needs to be amended. So we didn't write the code, we can just go by the criteria. For the time being, what we're going to take a good look at is that Target CVS issue and see if there's any other issues out there. All right, other comments, questions you have? Any comments or questions from the public? Suzie, do we have anybody watching online for this one? Okay. All right, then. I think the board is in agreement. We'll see you May 2nd. If there's anything further, by all means, let us know, and we'll see you back here on May 2nd.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time. All right, Ryan Holmes, 1505 Beaumont.
Hello, my name is Greg McCann. I'm with Ryan Homes.
You are looking for 2 variances. One is the fence in front line of the principal building. It's going to be higher than 2 feet high, and the sign is within 35 feet of the pavement right of way. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is a fence that is primarily to notify the name of the neighborhood. Is that the idea?
Correct.
Want to make your presentation?
Sure, I didn't know if there was more questions.
No, I'm going to have more questions, but you go right ahead.
So the fence is going to run along parallel to Boughton Hill Road, and the fence is going to be a split rail, 3 rails vinyl fence with stone pillars, and then a stone monument in the middle of it. So there's 2 entrances into Bluemont Rise. You're looking at the first one on Claremont Court. There is another one, if you're looking at this map, there is another one to the east, which is Beaumont Way. So as you can see in the picture there, the front line of the house we're going to be about 14.5 feet past the front line of the house with the fence, and we are going to be off the edge of the pavement of Boughton Hill Road, 40 feet. So the request is for the approval for this fence to be 14.5 feet in front of the front line of the house. This picture you're looking at is Boughton Hill Road. As you go along Boughton Hill Road, the fence continues on the other side of Claremont Court, continuing parallel with Boughton Hill Road. I'm just going to step over to this so you guys can see this. This is the proposed sign, and this is the proposed fence line. Fence is not 35 feet off of the edge of the pavement, is actually 40.1 feet off the edge of the pavement from the original review of the notes. So that is in the paperwork to be reviewed today as a 35-foot requesting a variance, but actually we are 40 off the edge of pavement from Boughton Hill Road. And I believe that's within code, am I correct? 40 feet
Yes, 35 feet from pavement edge.
is minimum?
Yes.
Okay.
You're within, as far as the second piece of the variance, within the right-of-way, you don't need a variance, or I'm not quite clear on what you're asking?
That is the question. It was number 2 on there about the 35 feet. Is that a variance request, or is that within the code?
So go ahead, Al.
I think that was what was originally called out because we weren't sure of what the dimension was, but I think you've clarified the dimension since then, and just hasn't caught up with this paperwork. So,
So that variance can go away.
correct.
All right. So the only thing we're looking at is the fence that's forward of the principal building.
Correct, and there's actually 2 lots that is going to happen on. 1505 Beaumont, and the first one we saw there, which is, I don't have the address, it's 31 Claremont Court. Yes. So 6420 Claremont Court and 1505 Beaumont Way. And you should have examples of the proposed fence on both of those forward of the front line of the house. So this is the sign that will be in between the fence. That will be 40 feet off the Boughton Hill Road. And if you want to go to the next slide, that's just an overall plan, and I can show you here.
We used to have a pointer.
I know, I was looking for it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in
So
a
this,
year.
this is Boughton Hill Road, as you can see. This is 6420 Claremont Court. The proposed fence line is here, and then it has what we call like a little angle in front of the front line of the house here. That's what I'm requesting the variance for. And then over here on 1505 Beaumont Way, we have the fence that is running along Boughton Hill Road here with an angle here, and this portion from this point forward, it's about 14 feet in front of the front line of the house is what we're requesting for a variance there.
Can I ask you a question? Is that Beaumont, the sign going to be on the angle? Is that where it's going?
No, unfortunately, the sign is going to be in the middle of another set of fence. The whole fence project. You have 2 entrances off of Boughton Hill Road. You have Claremont Court entrance here and Beaumont Way entrance here. Fence is running from this point here, stopping, picking up here. This is where the monument sign is going to be. Fence continues here, stops here, across the street of Beaumont Way. The fence picks up again and ends over here. And these are not enclosure fences. This is strictly a decorative fence to make the curb appeal more appealing to the entire community. Right behind there is Bluemont Stables, the horse farm there, and, you know, in keeping with that, we would like to have the split three-rail fence, and it's going to be roughly 3 feet, 36 to 40 inches sticking out of the ground, about this high. So, what's that?
This high.
Oh, right, like that.
I see what you're doing.
So 36 to 40 inches out of the
There
ground.
we go.
Yep.
For our record, just,
Well, I said it.
got it.
Yep.
Good. So it begs the question, why do you need the 14 and a half feet on either end of the fence? Why is that? Is it critical? Is it decorative, aesthetics? What's the
Aesthetic
purpose?
and symmetrical. So if you see on Claremont Court, it is to keep the symmetry when turning into the community. So, all right, if you can't hear it on the microphone, but take the center line of the road, equal distance out to these 2 points right here. That is the end of the fence where stone pillars are going to be, and then the fence is going to angle back in. And if that was 14 feet back, it would not have an ideal appeal because it would stick further back than this here on the other side, opposite side of the road.
Right, so it's really purely for aesthetics, on the reason why you need that 14 and a half feet, one for Beaumont and the other for Claremont. Is that fair enough?
Correct, yep.
Stop signs coming off of Beaumont and Claremont?
The stop signs, I believe, are already in place, and these aren't impeding on those. And the Claremont is on the right-hand side, Beaumont is on the right-hand side. But I'm trying to recall if the stop signs have been installed or if they are required.
I've been in new neighborhoods and have recognized the problem of these decorative fences and monuments, greenery, and blocking stop signs, line of sight, causing issues for in and out. And if it's just for aesthetics, that would be at least my concern. I don't know about the rest of the board, is it's just purely for aesthetics, and you're creating a bit of a hazard. That's certainly not what I think I would want. I don't know about the rest of the board. So what else is going to go then between that end of the fence and the road itself?
Nothing. So you get into we are actually, if you look at the Claremont Court picture, you see the fire hydrant right there. It's HYD. That is the setback for the right-of-way. If you go to the right of HYD, you see the gutter drawn and the road. So we are, and then you see the distance of 25.9 feet from the right-of-way to the edge of the fence. Do you see that? So we are close to almost 47, 48 feet off of the edge of the gutter. And typically, stop signs are within a few feet of the gutter.
If the board denies the variance for really both sides of the fence, what's your game plan?
To understand the code better and to re-request for the variance.
All right, so what I'm driving at is you wouldn't necessarily shorten the fence.
Correct.
You would leave it, you want it that long, it's all or nothing, you wouldn't put the fence up with the monument, then help me understand what's happening here if the board just, I understand and I appreciate it. You're going to read the code and you want to understand the code as best you can, but sometimes what the board will do is say, well, if you don't get it, what would you do? And some people say, well, I would shorten the fence up. And some might say, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to put it in. We won't deal with it. So what I'm asking you is to play in the land of ifs and buts a little bit. If you don't get the variance, Would you shorten the fence up? Rethink it, or you're not, this is it, it's all or nothing. We want it 14 and a half feet longer, maybe it's 7 feet longer. Because really, one of the criteria that we look at is whether or not it's substantial. And sometimes, again, the applicant will take a look at it and say, well, gee, I don't need 30 feet, I can do it with 15 feet. And we're not trying to re-engineer it or over-engineer it, but trying to understand really what the intent of the applicant is.
To your question of what we would do, that is something that is not within my pay grade.
Fair enough.
But I can speak for the company, that's why I'm here today. We would come back and try to understand better what the opposing factors would be from the town. Because the way we see it, and I have a little prior knowledge because I'm in that environment all day long. 14 feet, 14.5 feet in front of the front line of the house is not a substantial amount. Especially in relation to the gutter and to the road. People often have plantings, berms, like little raised flower beds with trees well in front of the front line of their house, which can obstruct traffic, can obstruct views of stop signs. We've designed this to be, again, appealing from the road and not to inhibit traffic, not to inhibit any dealings with the town, and as far as the roadways are concerned. So we feel that the request is not a burden to the town or a substantial request.
Okay. Brian, do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
Well, the house fronts the side street. I don't even think, I don't think the fence really identifies that well with the front of the house. Looks nice. The fence is so far away from the house that I think it's a very low impact, almost a technicality.
Well, yeah, it's part of that's how the code's written, and it appears that it's really not the homeowner's fence, it's the development's fence. Is this an HOA or is it a?
No, so what would end up happening is the person who buys the lot would take ownership. We would have verbiage in the contract that they would take ownership of the fence because it's not on town property, it's on that specific homeowner's property. And whenever we sell a house with a monument or anything like that with a fence, that conversation is had and it's in the verbiage that it is their maintenance because it's not a town structure.
You have a hold harmless with the
Hold
town?
harmless, yes.
Yep, okay. Donna, questions, comments,
So in 10
concerns?
years, if that fence falls down, they're responsible for putting it back up the same way that it is now?
Correct.
Okay, and the other question was, is Fred saying it's so far, but it's still in front of the house? If we're considering it, do we consider that fence to be Mountain Road? Or do we consider that fence to be the name of the street that it's on?
It's where the driveway, because the driveway is coming onto Beaumont and Claremont,
It would be Beaumont.
and technically is forward of the
Beaumont and
principal.
Claremont. Okay. So
Yes.
how many feet is that front yard?
So it's 42 feet to the right-of-way, and then the right-of-way is typically like another 17 feet. So 59 feet to the gutter is the front of the house, and then we're at the same distance. So we are actually 59 feet to the front of the fence. Or, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 59 feet from the front of the house to the gutter, and then we are 14.5 feet in front of the house.
Okay. Thank you.
Sarah?
That's all I have.
The fence is vinyl, I assume?
Yes.
So I just have a few comments, actually. I feel like the fence is only 3 feet, 3.5 feet tall. I don't really think it's going to impede vision on either side of the roadway or from the resident leaving their home. I think it fits with the characteristic of the neighborhood. So, I'm actually in support of the application, the way it's presented. That's all I have.
Okay. There is a county planning board referral, right? So we have to hold on that until you're aware of that, correct or not?
I'm not.
All right, so the county planning board, we're required to send this application to the county planning board for their comments. They'll send it back to us, we'll take a look at it. Depending on how, the manner in which they determine will trigger whether or not we can decide on it by majority or by supermajority.
So I guess I'm unclear on the county's position here.
It's because of the proximity to state roads, boundary lines, and I think this one is because it's close to the Farmington boundary line. Where are we? You know, Susie offhand,
Or is
Al?
this,
You're
does this
on
have to
county
do?
road.
That's what it is, it's a county road. Thank you.
Yeah, is it, has that anything to do with the Monroe County Water Authority, which is what they were requesting?
It's usually, it's proximity to state roads, county roads, town, county, boundary lines. It's general municipal at 235M or N.
Something like that.
So, am I responsible for sending over the application to the county, or have they already been filed?
You can attend the meeting if you want, you can make your comments if you want.
I just wasn't aware of that being sent on our behalf, so I don't know when that meeting is, or when that's happening, or I don't know
It's-
when any of that's going down.
Town is required to forward that to the county planning board for a referral.
Okay.
So you're all set on that piece.
So the town is sending that over. That's already been sent. When was that sent? Okay.
And it will be reviewed in May. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact date. And then they generally come back with comments after that,
How often do they meet?
once a month.
Once a month? Do we know the date? I'm sorry.
It's in May. I don't have the exact date in front of me.
I think it's the third Wednesday.
Third
of every
Wednesday?
month.
So, this has to go to the county for review because of proximity to County Road 41.
Right.
And at that point, once the county does give their opinion or ruling on the structure, that comes back to the town zoning board? Or are we separate now? Because the two requests that essentially, the way I understand it, is the two requests that we're asking is for Claremont Court, Beaumont Way to be in the front line of the house.
Right.
It sounds like this is the entire project by the county. And the entire project is all along Boughton Hill Road. So do we have the town's approval for the 14.5 and 14.1 feet in front of the two residents? Do we have the zoning board of approval for that?
County Planning Board is going to review your request for a variance for the fence. Not Monroe County Water Authority, not what's going on up and down the road. They're going to take a look at this variance.
Why is it a variance to the county road, I guess, is the question? Because the way I'm understanding the variance is that I'm in the front line of the house on two lots. That's why I'm here requesting the variance.
Because of the proximity to County Road 41, the New York State law, general municipal law, and again, it's either
Do we
M
know
or
what
N.
do we know what the distance is, the proximity distance is?
500 feet.
500 feet?
It's 500 feet, Al?
That's correct.
So it's 500 feet to a county road, a state road, a county line, a municipal line. So it's going to cover a lot of different things.
Yep.
If you really want to know, you might want to ask your counsel and say, what were they talking about? Tell me how this works, how the thing ticks, and they'll probably tell you clearly about what your rights are and what you need to do, if anything, with regard to the county planning board's required review of the town's, how they look at this particular variance.
I think I follow you. I wasn't aware of the extra step, so that's why I'm gathering up all the information, because I'm going to be asked a lot of questions. So I want to make sure I have all the answers.
Sure.
I can see how
Ask-
many they
ask as
saw
many as
last
you want.
month. This is Ontario County Planning Board last month, how many towns and things they saw, so.
Okay.
It's not, you're not just,
No, I'm not feeling
Okay.
attacked. Like I said, I am just gathering my information.
You might get some traction too if you call it the Ontario County Planning Board, and just, how does this work? I was in front of Victor's zoning board, and you have to review it. What's the mechanism? How does the whole thing, and they'll tell you.
Okay. So again, at that point, I will probably attend that meeting as well. Once they make their ruling, does that come back to the town? Then you have to review it? I'm just trying to understand the timetable at this
It'll
point.
come back here, and there's certain classes on how they take a look at things. So there are some classifications that, in a nutshell, they just may say, it's a class 1, do whatever you want to do with it. But there's others that they may say, boy, this is an important issue. It's going to impact not only the town, but also the county. So if the board wants to make a ruling in favor of granting the variance, it has to be done by a majority plus 1. In other words, a supermajority.
Okay. And that could get ruled depending on, the supermajority could get ruled depending on how the county views this project?
Right. So I can't tell you how they're going to take a look at it until we see what their opinion is on this.
Understood. I just want to make sure I don't have any other questions. And just for my clarification, so I understand your position of this, it goes to the county. They come back and we're doing what ifs. They say we have the approval. Do you have to have another meeting, or does it automatically get a stamp of approval?
No, it'll come back here.
So it has to come back to the town?
Irregardless of what they say. They either could say, Town of Victor, do whatever you want, or no, we're going to require that if you want to grant the variance, you have to do it by supermajority. You're going to be back here with the next meeting after they're done.
Okay.
To make,
So I'm going to come back here and report the findings of the Ontario County, or are they going to report the findings back to you?
yes.
And then I'm going to
second
come
piece.
here, and then you're going to tell me the findings, and then you
Yes.
are going to rule on that findings and your opinions.
More than likely, we'll give you the ruling. Once we see what the county planning board does, we may ask you a few more questions for clarification, and then the board will decide, grant the variance or not.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, I think I covered it all.
Greg, I think it's the second Wednesday. I'm
The
sorry.
second Wednesday?
I just pulled up calendar.
Okay.
So I think their next meeting is the 11th.
Of May.
Does that make sense? Yeah. But their agenda should be on their website too, the county planning website.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good.
Just for future, if there is this kind of, maybe I missed it in emails, communication that this is going to the county, that was not communicated. So that's why I'm surprised and trying to gather all the information. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thirsty Turtle.
Good
Morning.
evening. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
My name is Ted Rund Jr. and I'm just here on behalf of my father and my family. My father couldn't make it tonight, but I'm certainly well informed with the project. And before I get started, I just want to thank you guys so much for allowing us to do this last year. We weren't able to get it completed until the end of September, so we really didn't get as much use out of it as we wanted to, but it was good in the sense that we were able to get our feet a little wet with how to conduct business out there. During COVID, we were in the parking lot and we were not allowed to have people in the building, so walking to greet a guest, take their order, walk all the way back to the middle of the restaurant, walk all the way back with the drinks, leave, come back again, do the same process to get the food. The amount of steps we were tracking on our watches was incredible. So I do appreciate you guys allowing us to kind of make our property better in our patio that was limited in size, and we've able to kind of recreate that atmosphere out there with a very warm and aesthetic feel. And I just want to thank you guys again for allowing that to go through, because I do know that I've gotten a lot of compliments, and I've actually heard that there's been multiple businesses that have thought about doing this. One specifically is K2 Brewing in Webster that got the turf and installed it. So I'm pretty proud of what we have at Victor, and I think for our restaurant, it kind of sets us different than many of the restaurants around town, and I just want to thank you guys again. But I'll certainly go into some more details about what we're here for today. So we're trying to get a variance for our sprinkler waiver. When we constructed the bar out there, one of the reasons why we did it was to provide better service, because again, we were still going all the way to the middle of the restaurant to fill up a non-alcoholic or an alcoholic beverage. And so one of the biggest things that will allow us to do is be more efficient and to serve our customers a little bit better. I'm not sure if you're aware, but most restaurants during this COVID experience and post-COVID, we're still getting many people that are afraid to come inside. We're still getting people that are just doing takeout orders. So when we were going through this whole experience over the last 2 years, we went from doing so much takeout to then allowing people in our business and having that business, but on top of the takeout business as well. So it was a challenge for us throughout 2021 and somewhat of 22 to try and make sure that we were not over-promising and under-delivering as far as like timing of stuff. So this structure will kind of allow us to have a station where we can order food right from and serve our people and get back to them, as well as allow us to be more efficient as far as community events. I know that we've done a handful of fundraisers for local charities and school events and stuff like that. So this will really allow us to protect our equipment and also serve our customers better. And if I could just add, because I know that it was a topic not to talk about the Bristol's Garden, but we are in the process of putting up a 8-foot by 40-foot wall because we're losing the hill in the back. So we're actually adding 10 full parking spots, which will bring us to, I believe we were at 108, so now we'll be back to 118. So we'll get those 10 spots back that we lost. We lost 13, so we'll get 10 out of the 13 back that we had. And that might be it.
So the criteria for a sprinkler waiver, you have one of the bigger pieces is the fire marshal doing an evaluation. Mm-hmm. And it appears that the fire marshal doesn't oppose it, provided that it stays an open-air pavilion, right?
Okay.
So you're planning on keeping it an open pavilion?
We are planning on, well, we were planning on having temporary gates that would come down to keep the wind and the snow from coming in. So if we had like a cooler underneath you that you were to take a can of beer or can of soda out of, we're trying to hold down on some of the weather elements that would be coming from the northwest,
If I understood the evaluation from the fire marshal was that it's not going to be closed in, a permanent enclosure.
Okay.
Is that not accurate?
Well, I didn't see his notes. I just had talked to him briefly about what we were trying to do. I mean, we want to be able to secure our equipment and our products out there. So for us to have to wheel a dolly out with sodas and canned beer every day would be a challenge. I mean,
The email that we have from the fire marshal to Amber here, fire marshal does not oppose the granting of the requested sprinkler waiver for an open-air pavilion. If the pavilion at some time in the future is to be walled in, creating an enclosed environment, we may wish to further comment at that time. So at some point, it appears the fire marshal thinks that it's going to be an open
okay,
pavilion.
okay,
So if that's starting to change, then it's important, I think, to communicate
sure, absolutely,
so that the fire marshal can figure out what their take on it is.
sure, okay, and,
For a little, I think, of background too, we've had requests for sprinkler waivers. Property's important, lives are important. What's at issue in the intent of the sprinkler code is that the quicker that fire can be suppressed, the safer those firemen and women are when they get to the fire.
sure,
So if it's out of control even before they get there, that creates a whole host of other problems. Plus, they'd like to know what's in there so that they can attack the fire as need be.
right, okay,
If it changes, certainly I think you can understand if it's an open-air pavilion, it's much different than if it's an enclosed pavilion.
okay,
So I think that's one particular piece. So let's hold on to that thought a second. There's other criteria that is to be looked at, and one being is the undue economic hardship. Have you looked into the costs at all about what it would be to put a sprinkler system in there?
well, I guess my question would be, the building is grandfathered in, if we went with a closed area, is that something where we would just have to do that area or the whole entire building?
No, it's just it's just a pavilion, right? They're not looking at the entire building.
No, as long as the pavilion is not attached to the main structure and it's not greater than 50%.
Sure, yeah, no, I know for a fact it's not attached. And I guess that would raise the question as to open air, because we do have intent to go over the top of the back wall fence to get the water, where the roof will drain, it will drain to the back side of the parking lot and then follow the rest of the water. So there will be parts that will be open air, if you know what I mean, but I mean, I certainly will
So
go
I
there.
think what it sounds like, at least on that point, is to get clarification to the fire marshal.
Sure.
This is our plan, this is what we'd like to do, so the fire marshal can then give us an opinion on what's the risk factor on should a sprinkler system be in there, or is this a situation when it's really not necessary? Because the factors certainly on who's going to be in there. Are employees going to be in there? Are people going to be in there? Are combustibles going to be in there? How hard is it going to fight that fire? That, I think, goes into the big piece of fire marshal's opinion.
Sure.
What do you deal with it? Which also comes into play as, when I asked you the first, a few minutes ago, is the first criteria is an undue economic hardship. If, for example, the code requires a sprinkler system in a pavilion, enclosed pavilion, but employees aren't going to be in there, people aren't going to be in there, so the need for the sprinkler system is probably lower than it would be if employees are going to work in there or customers are going to be in there. So it's a bit of a, take a good look at it, and how much money is it going to cost to put a sprinkler system in there in the first place? Is it cost prohibitive, or is it something that it just can't, it's so far out, if you will, from the main structure that you can't get water, or whatever the case may be, which goes into the next, is it a physical or legal impossibility? That's another criteria. Another one is whether or not the code, really, the intent of the code is being accomplished and achieved. Whether or not it's necessity in light of other alternatives. We've had sprinkler waivers before when, if you will, if any, employees would be in there, but the applicant said, look, we're going to have fire extinguishers at all these exits. So the fire marshal took a look at it and said, well, okay, that would suit the situation. Safety is, of course, paramount. So I think communicating with the fire marshal is going to be important so that he or she can understand what do you want to do and what's the fire marshal's opinion on safety.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to, is
Okay.
safety.
Okay, and I guess just to clarify something with that statement, the roof, I don't know, I think I submitted some documents, but I don't know if they're on record with the application. No, that's okay.
And an aerial.
No, that's okay. I guess what I want to say is that the only people or persons that would be in that enclosed area would be a bartender or a barback, which we would only be using hopefully 4 months out of the year, but let's be honest, probably only 3 months of the year. And then where the customers will sit, there'll just be an overhang. So no customers will actually be inside of the bar. It would only be a couple of staff members. But I certainly have no problem clarifying to the fire marshal what it would be, maybe letting him know that we would have multiple fire extinguishers in that small area, et cetera, et cetera.
If you have some drawings or some idea of what it is that you'd like to do, not only communicate that to the fire marshal, but also to the board, this is what you'd like to do, here's what it's going to look like, here's how many employees are going to be there, customers are not going to be in there, a little clearer picture on what this looks like, instead of everybody's starting to, gee, I think I know what you mean, I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, and I want to apologize, because I
That's okay.
had an architect draw everything up, and when I submitted it to codes, see, we were, when we first came to you guys, what was stated to us from Kim Casella was, we think that would be helpful for the planning board for have everything indicated on the plan, also include as much detail with your letter of intent, including your phase 2 for the pavilion, so that you don't have to come back to another planning board. So at the time, we were going through so much. I mean, I think we just didn't realize, and we only had so much money, so we couldn't really put the whole plan together, but we knew that we wanted to have some kind of roof over that area to be efficient. Now that we put that together, I submitted it to them, to Sean, and he said that I had to go for the waiver. So when I had submitted the application, I had all the drawings in there, but when I found out that I had to be a part of this meeting, I guess I didn't know that those weren't going to come over across.
Right, so it sounds like the planning board has your materials, but we don't have it.
Right.
Okay.
I apologize.
All right, so let's do this. We can, Amber, if you would get all the notes, all the minutes, everything that was submitted to the planning board, we'll take care of that piece.
Okay.
All right, getting all that information. If you've already submitted to the planning board, Amber's going to take care of it to get it to us. In the
Okay.
meantime, I think it would be best for everyone visit with the fire marshal again, clarify this is what you'd like to do.
Sure.
So that he understands. Do you know who you met with?
Well, Chief
Okay.
Chapman is at my place. We have a great relationship with Fisher's Fire Department and Chief Chapman, but I also did call Fire Marshal Graham
Yep.
and spoke to him on the phone.
Right, so let's just stick with.
Absolutely. Email.
Fire Marshal Graham.
Sure.
And say the zoning board is asking for a little more clarification, maybe a little walkthrough, whether it be if you take a picture or two, so that he completely understands what it looks like, what you want to do, how many employees, how many customers.
Okay.
And let him know that in the inclement weather, you may want to put something with plastic or something to keep the elements out, or is it something a little more permanent?
So this would be something more permanent. We're really trying to have as little wood and materials in place. Obviously, we've spent a lot of money taking out a loan to do this, and this is the phase 2 that we want to finish up. So we're trying to keep this as efficient as possible. And what we're trying to do is just treat it like a pavilion where a garage mechanism type thing would just roll down, okay, on top of the bar and then contain all the stuff in there, where the actual citizens or customers will just be on the outside but under the overhang. The overhang is only a little bit, but.
During open hours or when you close for the night?
So we would only run it like, it wouldn't be open every day, and it would probably be something that we would run like Wednesday through Saturday from 5 to 10 o'clock. We would shut it down, obviously.
That's my question very well. The garage door mechanism that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is that going to come down when you close up for the night?
That would come down when we close up for the night.
That's a good point to make to the fire marshal, say during the day or when we're open, these doors, if you
Will be
will,
open,
it'll be
right.
open. But when we
Gotcha.
close, it comes down. So let them know what you're thinking and how it's all going to work. Because initially, I'm thinking that you're going to close all these walls in.
Yeah, yeah.
And employees are going to be in, but
No,
so
I got you.
there we go. So clarifying with the fire marshal is going to be really important.
Okay. One last question.
No, go ahead, ask as many as you want.
So hypothetically, I reach out to Fire Marshal Graham, he understands me, says, okay, no problem, I understand everything, I'm gonna grant the waiver, I'll send it to the board. Am I just waiting until the next meeting?
You're going to come back to the next meeting. If you have, I take it, this idea just didn't pop into your head overnight. You saw something somewhere around.
Yeah.
If you can take a picture, say, this is kind of what I want. This is, it's this bar at, I don't know where, at Pittsford or whatever, you've seen it. So
Right.
that we can say, oh, now we're on the same page. I know what we're talking, and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about,
Right.
what the whole thing looks like.
Okay.
Instead of, initially, I'm thinking you wanted some plastic, and now I understand, you want some kind of garage door mechanism to come down. So if you have a picture of another bar, another restaurant, that would be helpful for the board to understand what it is that you'd like to do.
And he's not really granting the waiver. He's sending to us to go through the criteria and then either grant it or not.
Right, I understand.
Another piece, if you could, is it is important, as far as one of the criteria is, if you got an estimate for what it would cost to put a sprinkler system into that pavilion, it might be, for example, if it's $500 compared to $55,000, well, I think you might be able to see, one might be cost prohibitive for what you like to do, but one is like, well, gee, $500, I know it's a lot of money, but it's different than, it's like, is it cost prohibitive because it's so expensive to accomplish what you'd like to do?
Sure.
Or is it a good bang for your buck, for lack of a better term?
I understand.
So try and get an estimate, if you could, so much as to check in, and what would it cost to install a sprinkler system in there?
Okay. And I guess the only other thing I will ask is, so my only option is to really wait one more month now to come back to you guys to get this waiver. Is that?
We meet May 2nd.
Oh, okay.
You can get this done before May 2nd and send it over to us.
I'm running out of time, so
I got it.
The sun is gonna be here, and I'm gonna be very fast, so I will try and have this to you guys by.
Right, so
the end of
we
the
could,
week.
you could be back here May 2nd, and if you have all the pieces in place, we probably can take care of this for you.
Sure, okay. Is there any other questions that maybe you guys might have?
Sarah, questions, comments, concerns?
Did you submit renderings to the planning board of what it's gonna look like, or is that not part of the site plan?
I believe I submitted renderings.
Because Amber, that would be great if we could get the renderings. Okay, because that will be helpful. So then.
Sure.
You're not just describing it to us, we can actually see the pictures. It'll
Yeah.
be a whole lot easier for us
Yep.
to understand what you're doing.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but that's all I had.
Anna?
Nope, none.
Fred?
I'll be glad to find out what we've been talking about. I'm guessing about almost everything. I change my mind every 5 minutes.
No, we're good, we're good. We're just trying to get clarification. I appreciate your
Sure.
patience.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Very good. See you in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Thought I was the only one that didn't know.
I already too, then it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not what he's talking about. We're good, we're good, we're good, we're good. Okay, this goes here. That goes there. Stephen Barbash. 7471 Dryer.
Good evening.
How are you?
My name is Chris Schaefer. I own and operate Solar and Wind FX out of Canandaigua, New York. I'm going to be speaking for the homeowners here, father and son team on Dryer Road. What we're attempting to do here, and I actually went through my records, I've been in the solar business around here for 25 years, and so this is not an uncommon request, and I went back through my records, and I'd actually forgotten that I'd actually done a project that put solar in the front yard once before off of Valentine Road. So that's primarily what the issue is here. This client has an all-electric home, and as we can all attest to, our utility bills are getting higher, and they're getting killed with their bills. In fact, the system that I'm proposing to install for them is going to just drop shy of about 5% of taking care of all of their electrical bills, because there's a limitation by the Public Service Commission as to how much solar residents can actually have at or on their home property. So we have, that first photo up there shows some basic, that's the off of Encore that I took that from, basically showing the perimeter of the property. If we could scan to that net, perfect, that's excellent right there. That'll give us the gist of it. So what this client does is they have a home that is all the way to the rear of the lot. They have a long, narrow, very wooded lot. And actually, ma'am, could you go back to the other photo, the first one, please? You're going to see around the property border, and I apologize, lousy printer here, but they are treed continually all the way around the property. They have a little bit of a wooded lot slightly behind them, but I'm a fan of not taking out trees if I don't have to, and that particular spot just doesn't work because of the elevation of the property. So they have a long, narrow lot, and so what I'm proposing to do is I'm going to kind of follow the driveway. You could go to that next photo, ma'am. Thank you. And so what I've got here is I've got 8 different racks, essentially. They will be effectively touching each other. The reason they're set the way they are is for shading. If I get too close to the trees, I'm going to have shading from the solar, from the trees, and it's just, we're not going to get the output that we're looking for. Where we got the 50-foot mark there, what we do is we have the driveway entrance, and it is treed at the front of the lot also, all the way along Dryer Road. It is my understanding that my clients have spoken to their neighbors about this project. I know there's a project just down the road from them that also have solar. But obviously, it's not in the front of the yard, but it is certainly visible on the side yard. So that's basically what I'm trying to do, is we're trying to just take care of and get rid of their utility bill and make everybody happy, but there's no other place to put the solar in this case, unfortunately, in this particular situation. I believe, let me check, I think there's one more photo, ma'am? Not that one. That's all you got? Okay, my apologies. What I'll do is I took some pictures of the driveway entrance, and basically, if you're sitting at their house looking out towards Dryer Road, again, you just see the narrow spot for be able to drive out, and then it's treed on the front of the along Dryer Road. And again, it's treed all the way along both sides. And you wanted clarity, so I'm going to give you some clarity here. If we go back to the first photo, yep, that's the one. So on the right side, that's going to be the east side. Dryer Road is going to be the north side. Sunshine is coming from the south. That's behind the house. And again, along the west side, again, all this property line has trees and some evergreens all the way around it. That is pretty much what we're proposing to do. We've talked to the neighbors, and we haven't heard any negatives that I'm aware of. I don't know if you have received some letters or feedbacks, or if anybody was going to pop in here today in fact, one of the neighbors actually wants to talk to me and do solar on their place too. So, but that's what we're looking for. I know it's against the thing, and this is not the first town I've run into front yards, and I don't like to put them in there either. But it's fairly well, everything's covered, so it's, what's it, 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, I think, on Dryer Road? 45? At 45, you're going to have a flash of the driveway entrance, and that's about the only point in time you're going to actually see any kind of solar. Solar's ground-mounted, so we've got a height of just about 8 foot tall. And the way the driveway is set up is the driveway is the highest point, and it basically pitches down. So really, the solar isn't even going to be elevated as far as the road elevation is considered. If you were standing on the road and had a level, you might only see about 3 foot of the top of the solar arrays.
Son?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, if you got more, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, that last photo you had up, I wanted to actually show you this is the actual system that I use. This system is basically a fixed rack mounting system, and what I do is I use long cables that I drill into the ground, so there's no footers. It basically just sits right on top of the ground. So it gives me a lot of flexibility to follow the contours of the ground. Is why I use this particular system. So each one will hold anywhere between 14 and 12 solar panels is what that'll end up being. And
Approximate length of that be, of each one of those?
you know what, there's no way I'm going to be able to see that, so let me look at my docs here. I do have that in there. Each one is around 23 foot long. It's being that I've been in this industry so long, I have a pretty good understanding that the Public Service Commission in New York State will probably be allowing larger systems, especially now we're having the green push and everybody's going to be owning an EV and such like that. And we've got a lot of homes from back in the 60s and 70s when we kind of experienced the gas back. Some of us are old enough to experience that back in the day in the 70s. So what you're going to see is probably even larger arrays are going to be allowed right now than what we have currently. But this will take care of for what we're trying to do anyways. So I did grab a picture of the property that I had done on Valentine Road. I'm more than happy to send it. Pass it along. The project I had done. But I just printed that out today. It didn't even dawn on me when we were applying for the application that I had done something like that. So.
Fred, you got questions?
Well, you put a whole new meaning to putting something out in front of the house.
Yes, sir.
A couple 100 feet out in front.
Yes, sir. And I would love to go back further, but if you go back a couple of the photos, what happens is the tree envelope comes in.
They're high behind the house.
Yeah.
I parked out front there and wondered if I was going to act on this.
Right.
What I do, and I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, it's
You gave a good description of it.
thank you, thank you.
Donna, questions, comments?
My question was, could it go back a little bit farther?
Shading, unfortunately not, and those are mature trees on both sides. And we have the Victor Park right next to us, right to the east, over to the right of the picture as you're looking at it.
Well, one thought I have, you suppose some vegetation could be put in on the roadside, like a hedge or a dwarf tree, so that it would take out the industrial look to the thing?
Absolutely. We had discussed that as a proposal. Like I said, this isn't the first time I've been in front of a board before. And the client has agreed. There's some seasonal trees, obviously. There's a couple of evergreens that you might see right on the front, but the client is not adverse to adding a couple more, like an evergreen or something like that, that could hide the panels, absolutely. That's not a problem. And that's why I always suggest to my clients, please go talk to your neighbors. There's nothing worse than getting a letter in the mail that says, hey, somebody wants to do this. Oh, what, huh? Instead of being blindsided. So they had an opportunity to chat, and so far it's been nothing but green light.
I have solar panels, and I run the house and the car off them, and it's about the same size.
Ah, is it?
About 10 megs.
Oh, 10
the
kW,
roof.
probably,
On the roof.
on the roof, yeah,
The roof,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And actually, because I've been working out in the rural areas, I very rarely do roofs. Most of my stuff over 25 years has been ground and pole mounts, dual axis trackers, such like
Are
that.
you the fellow got the trailer that drills those augers in the ground for?
Yes, sir.
I've seen that a couple times.
Yeah, it all depends on the ground, what we're gonna run into, but most of what we have here is all clay soil around here, so the cabling system works out really, really well.
Sarah, questions, comments?
The one picture, it looks like there's more clearing back towards the house, so none of this can be shifted at all closer to the house.
The contour of the land sinks, unfortunately. So if it sinks, if a tree is, generally an average tree height around here is about 75 feet. So now I have to contemplate the shading, okay, from that, and that's going to be on the east side. So how do I approach this?
But you have investigated the possibility of moving further from the road?
I have a tool that gives me the shading analysis,
Yeah.
and this is what I have to present to the state, NYSERDA, when we're trying to get approval from them also, and it has to meet a certain criteria. Unfortunately, because the contour off the driveway drops, in fact, I'm surprised there's not a pond there. It would be a good spot, and it drops too much that the trees on the east side prevent the shading, unfortunately. That is the only spot that I can do that, unfortunately.
And right behind the house is just all...
Yeah, behind the house, it inclines right up, absolutely, yeah.
Is there a report that was generated that told you that this is the optimal spot?
That report hasn't been generated yet, but I will provide a shading analysis as part of the NYSERDA incentive program. When he had solar on his roof, he would have had to have, the contractor would have had to have done the same thing. And it'll tell me exactly how much.
That would be helpful to the board.
Sure.
Instead of, I know you didn't go out there and put your thumb up and say, this is the best.
No,
spot.
no,
Okay.
no.
But if it's data and the specifics, again, help.
Yep.
Instead of the he said, she said, a report that, a tool, help us, because one of the pieces that we're also looking at is, this is another county planning board referral.
Oh.
So we can't make a decision on this one tonight.
What road is it, are we in, that was a new thing I had never heard either, so it was because he was in so close of a proximity of a.
This is on Dryer.
I know it's on Dryer, but it
Town
seems,
Road.
where did I see we had a county planning board? Hold on.
I didn't think we were going there on this.
It's okay.
Let me look. I could be mistaken.
Close to the park.
Okay, then there's,
Cheeto is closer to the park.
That's it, okay. That makes sense.
it's
There's a
the same, it's gonna be the same drill.
Okay.
We can't decide on it tonight, so
Not a problem.
using the time,
I'll get the data that you requested.
right, so you're we'll see you not May 2nd, it would be the third week, which, the third Monday in May
Okay,
is when we
Okay.
can
okay,
catch up again.
sure.
And hopefully you heard
Yeah.
that we have to wait for the county planning board, what do they say, and it's going to determine on how we take a look at it.
Okay, sure,
I think that piece will help us tremendously with the data itself.
sure, absolutely.
I get it, I mean, we can see it, the aerial, the houses are back in the south, there's foliage, there's trees, and,
Yeah.
but we're just trying to avoid, we want to get it right. We don't want it to have it look like you put your thumb up and.
In fact, it's probably clearer on the photos you have in front of you than it is up there. But you can actually see the shading from the tree that goes to the part that Sarah was talking about if we had moved it back. And I don't, I'm looking at this thing and I don't know, I'm trying to justify and figure out what time of the day that aerial photo was taken. It's not noon, I'd have to say probably 9 o'clock in the morning would be my guess, so. So that shading, Sarah, as we get closer to noon, will go away, but it's that early morning sun I'm trying to capture to get as much performance from the solar panels, and that's why. And again, that's again, that has to do with the contours of that particular piece of property. But yeah, I can get that, absolutely. I'll do a full shading analysis.
Right there.
Yep.
Other questions, comments from anyone?
Anybody watching? Anybody with comments?
Suzie, we don't have anybody yet, okay.
Okay.
The other little piece I think that would be helpful is, well, I believe you talk to your neighbors, if you get something, in writing, hey, we know about the project, we're okay with it.
You got it.
Because the last thing this board wants to hear is like, whoa, gee, that's really not what happened.
So, absolutely.
Any kind of proof positive that you know, I talked to my neighbor and they're okay with it would be helpful too.
Got it, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because usually that's why you guys send the letters out for that particular
Right.
purpose of, hey, you have the opportunity to say something or not.
Right.
And apparently, nobody had anything to say on the negative side, but generally, people don't usually respond in a positive
right.
way either, so I
That's
get
right.
it.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. You guys got marching orders now. Okay.
All right, we're all good? Good? Great, all right, then we'll see you third Monday in May.
All right.
Anything else you want to add?
And you have it targeted in the notes that if you do require, we can put shrubbery on Dryer Road if that becomes an issue, as far as something.
Yeah, if that's the case, if the board decides that that's a condition to granting the variance.
Sure.
Putting some buffers that certainly wouldn't interfere
Yep.
with the performance of the solar panels. Don't know how we're going to go just yet, but that's at least a thought for the time being.
When I present the data, do you want that prior to the meeting? Or,
It would be helpful if
You
you
got
could
it.
get that to
Okay.
us so that when we get up and running, we have had a chance to take a look at
I'll
it.
do just that.
And we can be as efficient as we can with our time.
Not a problem. I'm good, y'all good?
We're good.
All right, thank you for your
Thanks so
time tonight.
much. You have a good night. All right, anything else? We're good? Fred, anything you want to add? About anything?
No.
Sure.
Yeah, I might think of something later, but I'll let you know if I do. I did see a
What?
campaign notice with this big smile in front of some important-looking books behind you,
Yeah, that's me.
running for,
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Enjoy your retirement. Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you over the years.
Very good. All right. Don't think we have anything else. Al, anything?
It's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and enjoyed it. I find this to be 95% of the time one of the more fun aspects of the job.
It's good. I'm curious about what the other 5% is, but
Me too, I'm not asking though.
The time when people come in, I feel like I'm the one on trials. Not very often, but on occasion.
try and have your back. Well, it's,
is this your last one?
Yes.
Yep, it's his last one, he's gonna enjoy his retirement.
Well, certainly, it has been a pleasure in my tenure here. You've always been there, putting the pieces to the puzzle for us so that we can make an informed decision. Appreciate your time, your effort. You enjoy your retirement. Stay well. Thank you so much.
I will write up the thing with CVS before I leave.
He's going to do one more.
I would just pass it off to Adam.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll be busy for the next meetings.
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
next
good.
two.
Very good. Again, thank you so much. We appreciate everything. Enjoy your retirement. All right, that's it. Motion to adjourn.
We'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Awesome, all in favor?
Well, geez, I don't know if this meeting is so much fun. I'm not going to second it.
No?
I want to go on.
What would you like to talk about?
Can't think of